So question number 3, how do you know if you aren't living your true self? What are the signals?
Yeah.
One of our favorites.
Yeah, this is a really, really great question. So we talked a lot before about what it's like to live from your real self. But again, this wonderful community member is saying, like, how do I know if I'm not? And it's funny, certain adjectives come to mind. And the first one is empty. You know, so you kind of just are going through life and you have this experience of, you know, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, but I just feel empty inside. And almost as if I'm a shell. So, you know, I might go to a movie, I might see a friend, I'm, you know, going to work, but I just kind of feel barren and empty inside.
And so then the clinical term comes to mind for me, which is depressed.
Okay.
You know, I think that can be another way in which it manifests.
And there's grades of depression.
Absolutely.
You know, so there certainly is like depression, like I'm in bed, I have absolutely no energy, and I don't have an appetite, I kind of can't, you know, kind of get out of bed, or I'm eating all the time, right? There's also kind of a chronic low grade, and a lot of times this comes with experiences of early dysfunction and not living from your real self, and it's called what used to be called dysthymia. It's now called persistent depressive disorder. And so that's going to be a, you know, relatively more functional, right? Like you can get up and you can go to work and, you know, you can do what you need to do, but you've got this feeling of just being flat. Okay. So everything's kind of in shades of gray and not in full color, you know?
Yeah, and then I would say another word that comes to mind that kind of dovetails on all of this, that can be a signal that you aren't necessarily living from your true self, is exhausted. And I'm not talking tired, okay? I'm not talking fatigued. I'm talking exhausted from that psychological and emotional space inside. Exhausted because you are working so hard to survive. Exhausted because you were working so hard to keep the peace, to keep people around you happy, to keep secrets inside, you know, to just kind of keep things the way you think they should be or need to be because it's too scary to have them be any other way.
Exhausted because you are angry and furious, resentful perhaps, and you are thwarting those feelings, right? So you're trying to deny all of that, you're trying to tolerate, you're trying to kind of soldier on, which ends up being exhausting. Absolutely exhausting.
And then as you were saying that, I was also thinking, you know, you can really sometimes feel like you're in that victimized place. And I say that with no judgment. I think the word victim has a lot of judgmental energy around it sometimes, and I certainly don't mean it in that way. But the way that I use that word is feeling helpless, feeling powerless.
And hopeless.
Yeah,
because hopeless means you have no choices. Okay. Right. And when we don't live from our real self, we're not giving ourselves choices. Right.
We feel handcuffed.
Our psyche says, like, I'm trapped. This is as good as it gets. I should be satisfied with this.
What's wrong with me?
You know, what's wrong with me? And it doesn't matter what your conscious intellectual mind is saying. Your psyche feels like there are no options being given to me to live a different way. Okay. And then that can lead to that feeling of depression, you know, dysthymia, exhaustion. What's the use? And then you keep trying to push yourself on in life to try to just kind of get through life. The flip side of that, you know, so the flip side of that is this life energy, you know, that comes when you are giving yourself possibilities, you know. I'm recognizing that I need a little bit more play. Oh, okay. Let me look at some trips that I can plan for 7 months down the road and be excited about that. I want some me time. So let me carve out some space this weekend to do this thing that I really enjoy. And then you feel like expansive. Okay. So it is a stark contrast, right? So that is, again, full of life, full of hope. Everything is possible because you are allowing it to be, versus I can't. Who does that? I don't have time for that. What will people think? I need to give to others before I give to myself. And then just that energy just goes and goes and goes because nobody is listening to you. And that means you. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was also thinking too, I mean, in some situations, I think when you're really kind of living from that false self place, you can also, we're talking about depression, dysthymia, and feeling kind of bogged down and exhausted. I think sometimes you can also live from that place of anxiety, hypervigilance. Okay, so we've touched on this at different times where if you're living from a place of false self, you're trying to keep everybody else happy at the expense of your own. Sometimes that can look like hypervigilance. It can be really anxious, really unsettled, really jittery, not able to relax, not able to settle into what feels good to you because you're so busy worrying about what's going to make everybody else happy. So that could be another way in which false self-living can really come through.
Yeah, I thought of a couple more as you're talking. So, not having anything to look forward to. Okay. So just kind of that, sense of like, what's the use, right?
Yeah,
just kind
what's
of,
the point?
what's the point in a chronic way? And then the other thing is, and I love this when I'm working with clients. So whenever I hear this just ongoing like irritation and feeling like, my partner's not listening to me, my partner's not supporting me, my partner's not loving me the way that I need to and want to be loved or I'm asking for. Now, of course, that can be legitimate and valid, right? But I always kind of run it through my clinical self, and I'm like, I wonder if you're listening to you. I wonder if you're supporting you. I wonder if you are valuing you, meaning yourself. Okay. So that feeling of just kind of, I'm angry at others for not taking care of me. And that is because I'm not taking care of me. I'm not allowing myself to live from my real self, and I'm not supporting that real self life and or activities. So maybe ask yourself that.
Whew, that's a big one.
Yeah, you like that one.
Well, yeah, I love that one. No, I guess so many things are coming up for me. I mean, I think one is when you say that, it's absolutely true. You've definitely got to look at, are you even responding to you and caring for your own needs? And I think I may have even said this last time or the time before that, people can try to care for you or meet your needs, but if you're not doing that for yourself, you cannot fully receive their care and attention. But I think the other piece to the puzzle is, do they even know what it is that you're needing or how they could care for you, right? Because if you're not caring for yourself, chances are good you may not even be consciously aware of all that you're needing, right? And so if you're not consciously aware of all that you're needing, you're probably not communicating that to your partner or your friend or whoever these meaningful relationships might be. So they're not really getting a full chance to even be able to respond. So that's another piece to the puzzle too, when you're looking at your own process and taking care of yourself and seeing if these relationships can facilitate that.
Yep. I have another one.
Go for it. Don't you love our ad-libbing?
So this is another one that I think is really cool. So are you living the life you thought you were going to be living when you were a younger person? Okay. So when you were young and you envisioned and or dreamed about what your life was going to become, right? Are you living that? Okay. Are you that person? Is your life, is your lifestyle that way?
Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And if it's not, I want you to ask yourself why.
Mhm.
Okay. Now that came to me, number one, because I love working on the self and the real self, but I am rereading, and I don't think that I mentioned this in Circle of Hope. I think I mentioned this to my Healthy Way Out alum group. I am rereading a book that is really about hopes and dreams and real self, and it's a classic. It's called The Alchemist. I may or may not have gifted a number of really important people in my
Am
life
I
with
reading
this
that too right now?
with this book for Christmas. But it is help me with the author. It is Carlo Polo or something like that.
Paolo Coelho. I
Thank
don't know
you.
how you pronounce
Yeah,
it.
that was it. I got that. So it's
It was in there somewhere.
it's about a 30-year-old book. It's called The Alchemist. It was originally printed in Brazil, and it just has blown up. I mean, it's been printed in so many different languages, but it really is about coming back to self. So I would read it. I feel like it's a very easy, enjoyable read. There are so many layers of metaphor throughout. It's really just enjoyable, and it makes you reflect and think, am I living from my real self or am I not? But if you don't have time to read it, I would say just a really nice kind of snapshot from it is, are you living, kind of the self that you thought you would be when you were little? And if not, why not? What needs to change?
So one other little thing came to me, and tell me if this feels accurate to you, but it feels accurate to me. I also wonder if you're asking that question, you might not be living from your real self.
Oh, that's great.
Right?
Yep.
Because when you're living from your real self, you know.
You kind of know it.
You just know.
Yeah.
It's in your bones.
Yeah.
Every fiber of your being says, yes, this is it.
Yeah.
This is what I need. This is what I want. This is the joy I've been longing for. So just another little nugget to think about.
Yeah. Okay. I got one more thing here that's important that kind of is, again, from what you just said.
Okay.
So it is also important. This is a similar concept to living within balance. Okay. So do not think that once you are living from your real self, this is a static kind of like, I've arrived, I'm living from my real self, So when we aspire to live from our real self, and we do want to aspire on a regular basis, it is not uncommon to have a period of time where we're like, wow, like I'm tending to myself, really, I'm supporting myself, I'm doing all of these things, and it's just great. And then life can come along and it can veer you off of that path. And then, maybe your kids need more attention, or you're having some financial problems, or, a parent gets sick that you need to take care of, and you go away from yourself, right? So know that that is a really normal process. And that's why we have to, on a regular basis, tend to ourselves, kind of make sure that we're connected. Ask that question. How am I feeling? Am I happy? Right? And if I'm not, what feels misaligned? Okay? Because this is an ongoing process.
Daily.
We got, daily, monthly, yearly, the different seasons of your life, right? So please give yourself permission. Never be judgmental. And know that this is always a process. You're going to arrive, and then life is going to do what it does. And then hopefully you're going to learn to say, how am I feeling? You're going to get yourself back on the right path. You're going to do the most current version of your real self. And then you're going to feel glorious again. Okay. And then that's going to be reinforced for them the next time that you veer off the path. So please know that that is a normal part of this process.
Yes, and your needs from your real self are going to change.
Yes.
Okay, you are always evolving and growing. So what you need today might be different from what you need next month or next year. That's all okay. Really living from your real self means you are open and receptive to all of those needs and responsive to them.
Exactly. I hope that answers your question. What a fantastic question that was.